Okay. And we are live for another session of our Captain's Corner. Welcome, welcome everyone. Welcome to the Captain's Corner, your place to get informed about first steps to recovery and how we help to create healthy and safe communities. During our live episodes, we share inside views, real stories, and educational resources. And as always, if you have any questions, please put them in the comments so that we can get back to you. And today, our topic is a very controversial one, and it is, what does harm reduction mean anyway? And let's dive right in. I'm Kirsten, First Mate of Marketing at the Harbor. Welcome, Kath Hoffman, Captain at the Harbor.
Ahoy, ahoy, me mateys.
Ahoy, here we are again. So Kath, let's chat about harm reduction. Before we started working together, I had absolutely no clue like what that even means. Like, it was so foreign to me. And I looked it up, and I would just read to you what I found. Harm reduction is a set of practical strategies and ideas aimed at reducing negative consequences associated with drug use. I read this and I thought, what? Like, what does this even mean? Kath, can you bring some light into the darkness? What does it mean? Like, overall, like, what is harm reduction?
Do you know, I think the easiest way to remember the definition of harm reduction is 2 words, and that's just common sense. And so we have common sense for all kinds of things, but when we think about it for harm reduction, it sounds like it's something alien to us, you know, like that's something that's happening somewhere else. What is this harm reduction thing? And it, you know, you can't define it by its word. You're not supposed to do that, but it is really about reducing the harm in our lives, however we do that, right? And we, in every different culture, they have different ways of practicing harm reduction. So in our culture, you know, typically, well, a COVID vaccine is a really good example of harm reduction.
Yeah.
You know, it's whatever we do to help minimize the harm we're doing to ourselves or is coming at us, right? So antibiotics, harm reduction, Band-Aid, cleaning a wound with warm soapy water, you know, brushing our teeth, flossing our teeth, anything we do to help keep ourselves safe and healthy, basically. Right? So it just makes sense, and we do it without thinking, you know, and we teach our kids to do it, and it's just commonplace in our lives every day. So that harm reduction, we are all familiar with it, even if we think we aren't. When we get confused is when we take it into another culture. Okay. So when we look at what is common sense in another culture. So what if you were in a starving country and maybe the kids' harm reduction strategy would be to get some food before they die? And to us, that would seem like, what? But in that culture, that's what they need to live. They have to find some food somewhere, right? That's just common for us, just get some food, you know? Well, no, we can't just get some food. But so the harm reduction to keep those people alive is to feed them, of course. It sounds stupid, but, you know, it's reducing the harm. That's really ABC. You know, when we look at what your definition that you read out is about harm reduction in the world of drug culture or addiction culture, oh boy, then that's us stepping into a world we're not really familiar with. And trying to figure out from our perspective, our common sense harm reduction strategies. So if you are drinking Listerine, as far as your body's concerned, you'd be better off drinking beer. And so then a success for somebody might be switching their alcohol intake from Listerine to beer. Okay, now for us, that doesn't make any sense. That sounds stupid, you know. Or I knew a doctor years ago who talked about, he was working on the front lines and with pregnant women, and he had a woman who was smoking crystal meth. And he didn't think that she was going to stop doing that through her pregnancy, and advised her to smoke crack instead, because crack would not have that same damaging effect on her or her unborn baby.
Oh.
So that's an extreme example of harm reduction. And that's from a doctor who's smart.
So instead of saying stop completely, which would just make sense for everyone who is not using drugs, like he suggested, just
because he's in that world. He knows the reality of that world. He knows, of course, without a doubt, it's best if this woman does nothing at all, except everything healthy for her and her baby. But he knows the reality of that. And those words are not going to make the difference. But what can help that baby in a real time solution is to have that mom recognize, okay, the meth isn't good. I need to be smoking crack. So that's crazy in our what?
Yeah.
Right? But for that baby and that mom, that's reducing the harm. Some people aren't going to quit.
Yeah.
And certainly not in the next month or two, you know, or whatever it is. We also know what a cycle that is to heal from, right?
Yeah.
So implementing those common sense strategies. Now, for us at Safe Harbor, for myself personally, I always believed in harm reduction. I thought it made, because I believe in common sense. So yeah, harm reduction made sense. And but I found out that once I stepped into this world, because I was still looking from outside until I got in there, and I found out that when I was doing my needle exchange program with the AIDS Network years ago, I had no problem giving out a needle. I wouldn't have no problem giving you a needle back then, so that we could reduce the spread of Hep C and HIV, and right, that made good sense. And yeah, I thought this is a great job. I love this job. And then I got a 15-year-old come in my car, and that experience just stopped me in my tracks inside myself. I just kind of stopped and thought, okay, do I believe in this? Like, do I really?
But what was that? Like, what do you mean? Like, you were in your car, like you were handing out, like you were in outreach, like driving. Yeah. So what happened exactly with this?
Yes. So I'm out in my little car back in the day. And that was my job, was to go and deliver needles or be available for needles with a phone call. People could phone me and I would go to their home or meet them wherever they were and get them clean needles. And I was doing that for a few months. And then the person that called me, I went to go meet, and it turned out it was this 15-year-old girl. And before that, I had just been doing this with adults. So all of a sudden, what happened was my harm reduction belief collided with my mother belief and my whatever. There was this big impact, and it stopped me. And it made me say, holy doodle, am I sure I don't want to do this. I'm going to give a kid a needle. What am I doing? And
so what did you do? Did you?
Well, I was lucky because I thought about, at the time I had a 16-year-old daughter, and I thought about her, and I thought, if this was Kate, I'd want her to get that clean needle first, because she was going to do what she was going to do. And I wanted to make sure she had something clean that could at least keep her away, reduce the harm. And then I could deal with or later kind of a thing. But it was really hard. And it was, I mean, for us, it was great because that girl ended up introducing us to a whole world of teenagers that were injecting at the time that we would have had no access to, right?
Oh, so
yeah.
Kath, did you meet her then, like obviously more than once? Like, did you build a relationship with her? What happened?
Yeah.
So
yeah, she was a cool kid, and she actually ended up going to treatment. But when she came home, both her mom and dad were injecting. And so I never did find out whatever happened to that kid, but she was really cool. And yeah, she taught me a lot, as they do, right? But what, for me, it made me stretch what I believed that I thought was pretty entrenched. And yeah, I believe in this. But this big push comes and challenges you to remember this is a person in this moment, you know, like that doctor did with that woman who was pregnant. This person in this moment, this is real. This is what's going to help her right now. And hopefully, you know, it'll work to keep, you know, the two of them as healthy as they could be, right? So it is a big stretch. You know, I hear lots of times from other women and men, mostly like men, that they won't, if they're going to drink, they will drink beer instead of rye whiskey. And they say, and I always wanted to do a stat on this because I've heard it so often that the guys will say, no, I can't drink rye. I have to drink beer because if I drink rye, I fight. That there was some kind, and I've heard it over and over again. And I thought there must be something in rye that just riles you up. I don't know. But so there's a harm reduction for that guy, right? He's doing harm reduction, and he's doing it in a, if you will, a drug world, although he's not probably having terrible consequences because of the drugs he's drinking. But he's recognized, or they recognize, hey, I'm not good on this. So I still want to drink, but I'm going to drink beer because that'll just give me the giggles and it'll be okay. And I'll mind my business and we'll have a nice little time and that'll be it. Right. Same with like the idea of switching from Listerine to beer. And we had a tenant at one of our houses years ago. Just a lovely little guy. He was an alcoholic and had been for years and homeless. Everybody loved him. And he would drink Listerine a lot. And of course, he had bad guts and everything because of that. Like it does, you know, it's not good for you, Listerine. So he had to have a coloscopy bag thing on him, right? And when he moved into our home, things got more settled for him. He was kind of in a safe place. He could still drink. It just had to be in his bedroom. He couldn't drink in the main areas of the house, right? This was housing, supported housing. And finally, because he had switched from Listerine to beer, his health started to get better. He wasn't drinking nearly as much because he didn't have to worry about drinking all his beer before Buddy comes and, you know, he knew it was there. He could have it when he wanted it. So his use went down and he was healthy enough to go to the hospital and get this little bag thing taken off and have the operation. And the girls at the ER were like, whoa, this is so cool. Because they'd known him for years too, right? Because he'd always been to the ER with stomach and all those problems from that Listerine and lots of hard years, right? And so he has his operation and he gets to take his bag off and he's like so happy. But the doctor says, okay, here's the deal. You cannot have another beer until you have a hard stool. Like you have to have a hard poop so we know everything's working okay, right? So he's waiting, of course, and he's getting thirsty, right? And he wants to have this, right? So he's always in the bathroom. And then one day he comes out with this little styrofoam cup and he's got this cup and he gives it to the staff and he says, is this hard enough poop? And the staff were like, oh my God, yes, I think it is. I think it is. Sure enough, you got to have a beer. But
Wow.
that reducing the harm for him, you know, and he was just so cool. He used to play the guitar all the time, and he had a little pet budgie bird that would sit on his finger, like right here when he'd play his guitar, little Petey. And he ended up, you know, he died. But when he died, he was housed, and he had his own room, and he had his bird, and he was happy, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So the housing was a harm reduction strategy too, right?
Yeah.
It's not just these things. For us at Safe Harbor, we took a big risk because we believe in harm reduction so much. We took a big risk when we welcomed the overdose prevention site onto our parking lot. And we took the risk. When I say that, I mean, we knew what the community perception was going to be. We knew that Turning Point only had a trailer to operate out of. They weren't going to have a bigger facility to keep people longer and take care of them better. We knew it was going to have spillover into our parking lot. We knew all of that stuff before it happened. But we also knew before they came that we were responding to overdoses every day, like outside in the parking lot, under the tree, around the corner, blah, 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 blah. It was crazy, right? So you have people dying in your parking lot. Once the OPS, the overdose prevention site came, things just, people went there and they got taken care of better, right? So for us, it was a harm reduction strategy that we know people need that help right then, right? So if you look at just the behavior, okay, here's Buddy, he gets his dope, uses his dope, and he almost dies. And he has to, you know, that's what an overdose is. Overdose of opioids, everything slows down in your body, right? Everything goes slow. And so then you're breathing. And that's actually what happens when people overdose. It's because their breathing just stops because everything slows down, right? So you would look at that from our common sense world and say, okay, this is stupid. This is really stupid. But just like that doctor knew with that woman, they're going to do this.
Anyway.
And they're going to run into trouble, and they're going to need our help. And right then in that moment, when you're standing over somebody, staring at them with, you know, when you've got the little life-saving Narcan in your hand or naloxone in your hand, and are you going to ask him, are you ready for treatment before you inject him? Right? His lips are blue. He's dying in front of your eyes, right? So that's why we always say we're about the first steps to recovery, because bringing someone back in that world from that place is a step towards recovery.
Yeah.
As far-fetched and as far away, you know, that makes you stretch so much. But it's true and it's real, and that's what happens. So do we want to keep doing that with that guy forever? Of course not. But when we're doing that for him, we're building relationship with him. We're sitting with him after. Is he okay? He's got a place to stay in the shelter. My staff are hooking up to him. What do you need? How are you? The nurse is watching over him. The nurse at the OPS is watching over him. You know, there's relationships being formed. There's connection. So, you know, we think about, do they deserve it? Because they chose it. Do they deserve this idea? And I think about a guy that goes up in an airplane and jumps out of an airplane and gets dead because his parachute didn't work. And we don't ask him, are you going to stop jumping out of an airplane before we take you to the hospital? I want to know. You know, we don't even think about it. That's justified. Or those guys that climb the mountains where there's no air, like, duh, you're not supposed to be up there and you're going to get dead, and they get dead. And then it's like, Okay, well, you made your choice. You made that choice to go up the mountain. You made that choice to go in the airplane. I make this choice to smoke. So then if I get dead from, get sick, should I be allowed to go to the hospital and because I smoked? Or I made this choice to eat, or I make this choice to whatever, right? There's some choices that we see people making that don't fit our belief system that we look at and think, if you are, you want some help, or we're not helping.
So Kev, can you mention like the two words, like what does it actually mean for you when you treat people? Like my word is like, as you explained, I might not understand why why you like why it is this way, like why is the doctor suggesting like a different drug when I'm pregnant, but like what does it actually mean to save life? Like how can I switch this, and what like how can we help? I guess that's my question. Like how can we help people to understand these two words?
Right. And that's a really good question. And I think it's part of the reason there's so much stigma around addiction is because we can't wrap our head around these ideas, right? And we're human, so it makes sense too what we're thinking and saying and stuff, right? But that's the challenge for everybody, is to recognize that we are making assumptions or judgments on a world we probably don't know a whole lot about, right? So we think we know what's best for this world, but until you get in it, until you're the mom and the dad whose kid is sleeping at the shelter tonight, each step you have to go closer to this, it changes you. It broadens your perspective. It makes you look with new eyes because you have someone you love now who's here. Now this is a different game, okay? This isn't just that drunk guy on the street running around. This is my kid who's here now. And this is what a lot of parents and families and loved ones are going through right now, is like, holy doodle, I'm getting close to a world. I'm getting forced into a world that I don't really understand. And I'm looking at it from my perspective and my belief system on what I think should work and shouldn't. And of course we are. Of course we are. But even just to have that little bit of an idea of maybe I need to listen. I need to educate myself some more. I need to find out some more, and you can do that in a variety of ways. Of course, you can TED Talks things, you can read things, you can Google, there's so many good ways to find information. And so many people out there that want to help with that information, right? Just like anything else on social media, things get twisted up so bad. I'll read some things and I'll just go, ay, what are they saying? They don't know. And you don't know. And how can you be expected to know if you've never been here before, right? So like that girl, and like I said, I thought I was good with harm reduction, but I got challenged. I stepped into a world I didn't know a whole lot about, and she taught me this is real. You want to know? There's a whole bunch more of us. You want to know where they are so you can help them too? Like it's
Oops. Kev is frozen. Let's see if she comes back. There. You were frozen for, oops.
what happened?
You were just frozen for a moment.
You were frozen.
Oh, I was frozen. Okay.
You were totally frozen. I kept talking. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, so we are back. Yeah, so but I think, Kat, like this is yeah, so like for me, like the takeaway for today would be like really trying to switch perspectives, like thinking from the perspective of someone that is using, or from the perspective of the family member that is involved, and what is best for this person at that time, in that moment, that is actually doable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, the biggest thing, I think, especially for those loved ones and the parents, is to have people standing beside them. You know, they're not alone, and they feel alone, and they feel scared, and they feel hopeless and helpless, and they're pulling their hair out, and they don't know what to do next, right? And it's a really tough place to be. It's kind of like when somebody dies, but they don't. And it's gross, because there they are, and you can't get to them, you know? And so you want to be able to put your trust and faith into people that are there, standing there beside them, hoping that that's going to, you know, help them and let them know they're not alone either, you know? Not just the parents and the families, but the people who are using the substances too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Lots of people use drugs all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. I learned that because I always used to think needle use and drug use was about, you know, people in the downtown, in the back alleys, the fires in the garbage can, and, you know, or old opioid dens or something, until I started delivering needles to every neighborhood in the city in the mid-90s. Okay, so if I was doing that then, the trouble with where we are now, or not the trouble, but the reality of where we are now with the people that we see at Safe Harbor that are in such distress and are so sick and wreaking havoc on the community, is that their addiction and the substance they're using makes it visible very quickly. You know, somebody could be an alcoholic for 30 years before, you know, whatever. The substances they're using make it visible. The fact that they're experiencing homelessness, we see them, you know. Last week, we had 6 overdoses in one day, in actually 14 hours one day.
Oh, God.
And when you think about, I think it's 75% of the people experiencing opioid poisonings are doing that in their homes. Okay. And I thought to myself, okay, I had 6. These are people experiencing homelessness. This isn't even that crowd, right? So you think of how many people that's happening to in their own homes when they're alone, and they're not reaching out, right? Or they don't have somebody with them because they're ashamed. You know, that's another, you make the assumption that the overdose prevention site just serves people who are experiencing homelessness, and that's not true. They're seeing other people who are coming because they want to be with somebody while they're doing this because they're scared, right? I think that's why we have people hanging around outside the harbor, because they know there's some help there if they need it, right? Yeah. And there it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. This is like really, this is so good and so great information, Kev. I never thought about this, even like 75, like doing this at home and like having not the support. Yeah, that is that is unbelievable. Even
I know.
So I think like maybe as a segue, is there anything else that you would like to add, or people to know that maybe if they have someone in their circle of friends or family that is in this situation?
Yeah. Well, I think that no, I don't know. I was going to say something, but I don't know if it works.
Yeah.
What I was going to say was that there are that, as I started to say before, lots of people use substances all over the place all the time. And we see the ones at Safe Harbor because they're visible. It's gotten bad fast and they've lost everything. So here they are, right? I guess what I would want to say is that not everybody that's using substances is addicted. Okay.
Mhm.
So addiction gets defined as something you continue to do despite the negative consequences it's having on your life. Okay. So despite everything, I'm gambling away all our money, even if it's our mortgage, even if it's our kids' lunch money, I'm gambling everything. Okay, I might have a gambling addiction, right?
Mhm.
But I might use, well, maybe even an opioid.
Mhm.
Maybe I'm using some down, right? And I've got some pills from my doctor, and I take one every day, and it just helps keep me a little bit.
Mhm.
And I'm still working, and I'm actually a lot happier than I used to be, and blah 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 blah, right? So I guess my thing is for us to not pay too much attention to the substances, or as much attention to the substances as to what's going on in that person's life. How can I support them? Doesn't make sense if my kid is using crystal meth and I say, do you want to switch to pot? Like, will that help? Like, we have to blow it all up because we've been making people so afraid of substances for so long, and people who use them, when the reality is that we all do in some way, shape, or form. Lots of people have a glass of wine every night when they get home from supper. Is that different than that pill that chick's taken? Probably not. Maybe the wine girl's going to have a bottle tonight, and what's going to happen with her? Do you know what I mean? So it's all about the individual and what they need, and what your spidey sense is telling you.
Mhm.
Yeah. I don't know. I went over 2 minutes.
True words. But thank you very much, Kath. I think you shared some really insightful stories again today, and valuable lessons that we can all use to connect with people that need it. And as you said, like look behind what they are doing and support them where they are at.
Yeah.
So that was another live today, and we would like to thank everyone who joined us live. You can, if you watch the replay, please put replay in the comments. If you have any questions, please ask them. Also, we have a YouTube channel where we have.
I have a YouTube channel.
I hope you subscribe, Kath.
I got stuck doing the Google thing.
So please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We will gather a library of educational resources that we find useful and helpful for you there as well, on top of our own videos. And we will be back next week. I don't know if we even have a topic yet, and we have 5 different in mind, so we have to decide on that, but it will be a good one again. Thank you very much, Kath.
Steady as she goes.
Steady as she goes.